Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal, and this is the latest Arsenal news. Let's get started with Emil Smith-Rowe, and then we'll be talking about a couple of new contracts. A lot of good news recently on Arsenal. It's such a good time to be an Arsenal fan, but let's start with Emil Smith-Rowe news. Obviously, he ended up he surprisingly missed the West Ham game. We thought he was going to be at least on the bench. That time, actually, that when I was reading the team news that day, I noticed Zinchenko wasn't there, Jesus wasn't there, and then I was like, oh well, let's try and win this game with the first team. And then I checked late after like 5 minutes checking the bench, and Smith-Rowe's not there. So that day we didn't really have a strong bench, and Smith-Rowe's one of those players who was missing. But why was he missing from that game? Well, this is the reason. According to reports, Emil Smith-Rowe suffered his ankle injury trying to leap over a slide tackle in training on Thursday. He landed awkwardly and suffered some bruising and swelling. The player was keen to try and play through the pain, but Arsenal decided not to take any risks. This is according to Charles Watt. So that particular game against West Ham, Havertz was dropping deep and he was getting so much space in midfield. He was, distributing the ball well. Odegaard was dropping into midfield, distributing the ball well as well. For that second half, we were getting so much space. Like that second half, definitely West Ham had literally given up and they were giving us so much space. This is one game I really wish Smith-Rowe was there. I'm sure he would have gotten a goal contribution, either a goal or an assist, because of that much space you were getting. And if he had the option of taking off, like let's say Havertz or Odegaard and bringing in Smith-Rowe, that day could have been like 7 or 8. But obviously, he gave opportunities to the likes of Elneny and Nwaneri. But Smith-Rowe missing, I think it is still a positive because we don't want to take any risks. He's been injured a lot recently, so if he's not 100% fit, just keep him out. I guess that's the correct thing. But I'm very, very relieved to hear that it's not a serious injury. Actually, there's reports that he should be back by the Burnley game. Now, if Smith-Rowe is 100% for the Burnley game, I'd actually play him because after Burnley, we have FC Porto and Newcastle. And I think that Burnley game, getting that space, and we're going to dominate the possession. And I think we're going to go for more attacking players. So I don't think you're going to see Jorginho and Rice together, or Elneny and Jorginho together, or Elneny and Rice together. We're going to go more attacking, and more attacking means the front three players, Odegaard, and an attacking number 8. So usually it's Havertz or Trossard. I don't mind seeing Smith-Rowe in that team, depending on whether Jesus is back as well and all those guys. Whether all of them are there, I still would start Smith-Rowe and Odegaard in that midfield, and then up front you can see what you can do and which player we can rest for the Champions League game and for the Newcastle game as well coming up. But Smith-Rowe, good news on him. He just missed one game. He should be back for the next game. I'm sure he will play a part for us between now and the end of the season. There's a game or two, or maybe even 3 we're going to watch it and be like, wow, today Smith-Rowe, he's been the difference, hopefully, because 2 years ago, he was our best player. 2 years ago, we were Smith-Rowe was in the England squad. He was on the same level with Saka. Like, we made a song for a song for both of them because on the same level, they both saved Arsenal. There's a time Smith-Rowe starting for Arsenal ahead of Martinelli. The 2021-2022 season, there was a lot of debates who should start on the left side, Martinelli or Smith-Rowe. That is how good he was. So hopefully he can get back to those levels. I'm really, really happy he stayed at Arsenal. Hopefully he stays next season as well. If he stays injury-free, I'm sure he's going to help us a lot. And he can play in several different positions, the number 10, the number 8, the left wing as well. So let's see how that one works out. But personally, this weekend, I would start Smith-Rowe. Let me know what you make of that. But his injury is not serious. Let's go to Ben White. So according to reports on Ben White, obviously, this past weekend, Ben White was absolutely incredible once again. And according to Sam Dean, talks between Arsenal and Ben White to renew his contract are now at advanced stages. Ben White, before we talk about the contract, or should we start with the contract? Let's start with the contract. Ben White is a player who definitely deserves to stay at Arsenal. The kind of impact he's made at Arsenal is superb. I still remember when you were signing him for £50 million. Man United were signing Varane at the same time, and there was Arsenal fans complaining, and the media and even Man United fans were like laughing at us, like, look at these guys getting Ben White and we're getting Varane. From that time to now, who's been the better player? Ben White by far, by absolute far. He's been able to stay fit the whole time. He's very, very durable. He's a player who can play several positions. In his first season at Arsenal, he was a centre-back next to Gabriel, and he played really well in his first season. The second season, last campaign, he was on the right. Who knew he was going to be our right back? No one knew. Like the moment he started last season, and who was missing? Tomiyasu had an injury. We were like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Ben White stepped up and he played at right back. Before Ben White was moved to right back, I think part of that was because Saliba was brought back, because we were trying to find out who was going to play between Saliba and White next to Gabriel. We were thinking, hey, they're going to rotate and all that. But Ben White, he was moved to right back for 3 games, and he performed absolutely incredibly well. And he stayed there up until today. And he's a player who, if you need him to play at center back, he'll play. If you need him at right back, he'll play. If you need him at midfield, he'll play. Before I come to the contract talks, let's talk about the game we played against West Ham. As I said, he was absolutely incredible. People will notice how Odegaard was, how Saka was, how Rice was. But Ben White, we didn't have Zinchenko in that game. Our inverted fullback, Timbo's not there. Obviously, Tomiyasu is not there. So we kind of need someone to step up in that inverted fullback. I don't think Kivio is the best in terms of that, but Ben White stepped up. Look at his positions in that game against West Ham. That is Ben White in midfield. We had the ball. That was like the 7th minute, and Ben White was in midfield. Look at him in midfield, like he was playing as an inverted fullback. And the thing with Ben White, he's very durable. He's very good at passing. And when he was actually signing for Arsenal, I did a video talking about the advantages of signing Ben White, and one of them was he can play in several positions. And I've always wanted to see him playing in midfield. Now we saw him playing as an inverted fullback in this game, but most of the time he was in midfield. I think this is another one. Here's another one on Ben White playing in midfield as well. He was literally playing as the midfielder. He was allowing Rice and those guys to push to the wide areas, to push forward, and he was very comfortable in that position. You wouldn't even notice unless you watch the game again twice or 3 times and just follow Ben White. You'll see how good he is in terms of that, and that's not the only thing he can do. He can also overlap Saka. And one of the reasons why Saka sometimes wasn't playing well was because Ben White is not there, or even him, he was not playing well. Like, they match up very, very well together. If Ben White is playing well, Saka is playing well. If Saka is playing well, Ben White is playing well. And you can see in this shot as well, Ben White running to the right side and overlapping Saka. And he gets to that position so many times, and he puts in very, very good crosses. These screenshots are from EBL 2017 on Twitter. Very, very good what's the word I'm looking for? The word has disappeared, but yeah, basically a very good find in terms of that. Ben White was really good in that game, playing as an inverted fullback, playing in midfield, and he never gets tired. You can play him in any single position you want. And I said before, and some of the teammates have said before, Ben White was playing with an injury earlier this season and the end of last season, but you wouldn't ever notice because he always wants to play. Always, the least he puts up is 7 out of 10 performances. Now, in our team, everyone is playing well, but sometimes Rowe will have a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. Sometimes Havertz will have a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. Sometimes even Saka will have a 6 out of 10. Martinelli will have a 5, 6 out of 10. Declan Rice and Ben White, they never drop under 7 out of 10. Like, Ben White, at least 90% of the time since he's been at Arsenal for the 3 seasons, he always never drops anything below a 7 out of 10 performance. He's absolutely incredible. And people usually wouldn't notice how good he is on the pitch. But if you just focus on his ability and what he brings to the team, he's a player who's very good. And he's one player that definitely needed the Dubai break. As I said on yesterday's video, there's 3 players that definitely needed that break. Saka was one of them for sure. Ben White was one of them for sure. And between Odegaard and Martinelli as well, those players really needed that break because the performances had kind of dropped. But since then, those after the break, Ben White is back to his best. Very good performance against Crystal Palace and against Liverpool, and this on Nottingham Forest as well. And that's not the only thing he brings to the team. As you've noticed, every time we take a corner, Ben White is the one who's standing next to the goalkeeper, and he's the one who actually makes us score those goals. Apart from Declan Rice and Saka and Trossard putting in those crosses from corners, Ben White is the one who stands next to the goalkeeper, and he's very cheeky in how he pushes the goalkeeper just a bit, and he disrupts their defense and helps us get those goals like in the far post. incredible. Those little things that Ben White does in the team, I still can't believe. Like, he played poorly for like 1-2 games, and people were asking for Ben White, drop him, sell him. I was like, really? This is like literally one of my favorite players at Arsenal. So in terms of news, he's about to sign a new contract, advanced stages. He definitely deserves it. This is a player who I can see being at Arsenal for many, many years, and he'll be there with the likes of Gabriel and Saliba and Zinchenko. I want all of them to stay. All of them have literally changed the direction of Arsenal Football Club. So that's the latest on Ben White. Next up, Tomiyasu, another player that we've missed since he went to the Asian Cup, another player that I really want to stay, and he's definitely going to stay. According to reports on Tomiyasu from Oli, the Informer, Oli Informer, Takehiro Tomiyasu signed a contract extension with Arsenal and is also fit and available for selection ahead of Saturday's Premier League trip to Burnley. So we were surprised not to see him in the team against West Ham, especially with Kudus and Bourne. We thought maybe he was the one who was going to play in that game to try and mark out those players. We ended up not needing him, but he's signing a new contract and he has been very important to us. Yes, the injuries have affected him, but if you check those games around November and December, or let's say October, November, there's 3-4 games he was absolutely crucial for us, especially in the Champions League. The Sevilla away game, him, Jorginho, Jesus, excellent. The game against Lens where he won 6-0, he was playing like David Beckham. He was putting in crosses. He assisted Martinelli. He assisted Odegaard's volley in that game as well. Is putting in crosses like David Beckham, literally. And in terms of defending, we all know, like, when you're coming up against Man City, Liverpool, Tomiyasu is the guy for you. Whether it's at right back or left back, he's going to mark the guys. And these days, just like Ben White, he's learned the inverted fullback and he goes forward. Remember, he also assisted. Was it assisted? I think, let's say, Partey passed the ball to Havertz. The goal against Man City, I know Tomiyasu is involved in that goal. Yes, I think Partey hit the long ball and then Tomiyasu headed it down to Havertz, and then Havertz passed the ball to Martinelli to score in that game. All those games, Tomiyasu was very crucial, whether he was starting or coming off the bench. There's another game he scored as well, I think it was Sheffield or something. He's been really, really good for us as well. And having him back for the Burnley game ahead of, a very crucial stage of the season, Champions League is back and all that. Would I start him against Burnley? No. I'd save him for the Champions League against Porto. I'd actually give Kivy another game against Burnley, get his confidence up as well. I've really loved what Arteta's done with the team recently, especially in terms of rotation. Trossard has started a couple of games. Martinelli has started a couple. Jesus here, Saka here, Odegaard has started. Smith-Rowe started against Nottingham. Kivia started, Zinchenko. All those guys have gotten game time. So it's really good. Nelson has come off the bench earlier, the last 2 games against Liverpool and also against West Ham. Ketch has come off the bench as well. We need everyone to get game time in that team. Everyone needs to get game time. And obviously, Odegaard, Havertz, and those guys, all of them have gotten a lot of game time. So Tomiyasu, new contract available for the weekend. It can't get any better than that. This is a player that we really, really need. And especially for the Champions League, as I said, you're going to come up against teams that you really need Tomiyasu to mark players. And we have men these days, if you have a defense of Saliba, Gabriel, Tomiyasu, Ben White, Rice in front of them, Partey returning, who's going to get past that? You're no longer the small team that you used to be with Wilshere and Gibbs and, those guys, Miguel and those guys, just a bit of skill, but the power and the presence was not there. With Tomiyasu there, why can't we go far in the Champions League? Why can't we keep on winning in the Premier League as well? Let's see. But Tommy has a new contract. I'm sure it will be announced very soon. Let's see. We'll find out how many years he's signed and about the money and all that. But he's going to be crucial for the Premier League games. So which Premier League games are coming up? These are the Premier League games that are coming up, plus the Champions League games as well, the next 1 month or the next 6 weeks. Burnley away from home this weekend, and then followed by FC Porto away from home. That will make it 3 away games in a row. And then after that, Newcastle at home, another team that we need to thump. Sheffield United away from home, Brentford at home, FC Porto at home, and Chelsea at home. The Chelsea game might end up being postponed if Chelsea beat Leeds in the FA Cup, which I'm expecting them to, but you never know with Chelsea. But if they win that game, we will play FC Porto, and then we won't have a game that weekend. And then right after that, there's another 2-week international break. So we won't have a game for like almost 18, 19 days again. So we will have a huge rest between that. And the next game after that, FC Porto game, if Chelsea is postponed, it's going to be Man City. So we'll have a long rest from between that time and Man City. But all of those games, those are winnable games. Early in the season, we beat Burnley. We beat Sheffield comfortably as well. We beat Brentford in the last minute. We drew with Chelsea, but if you carry it from last season as well, these are teams that we've beaten. Newcastle was it was supposed to be a 0-0 draw, we still remember, but that was a kind of a poor performance overall. We need to make it right, and we've won 4 games in a row. And then you have Burnley, Newcastle, Sheffield, Brentford. We have to make it 8 in a row. And I'm very confident now, like with all the players returning and everyone scoring now, you're scoring 5, 6s. I'm very confident. But let me know what you guys make of all that on Ben White, on Tomiyasu, on Smith Rowe, and all our fixtures that are coming up next. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you guys on the next one.